first thing that I always say is you cannot AI your way out of it. I think that Satya once called it, and I like the term, he called it ambient intelligence and ubiquitous compute. Right? I know there's a fear, there's also difference in opinion, but we are leveraging AI heavily inside Microsoft. We do a lot of things with our code bases. Reality is we really see AI as a companion.
Sometimes I personally feel it's such a gamble to just have AI write everything for you, even though it opens up avenues for you to create something that you weren't able to before. Hey everyone, today I have with me Boris Scholl, who is the Vice President for Engineering at Microsoft. So happy to be here with you. It's really a pleasure. And I wanted to speak to you about certain topics within the AI space that is on top of mind for a lot of our customers. When it comes to really embedding AI to the core business, oftentimes customers hesitate to do that because of the topic of sovereignty and confidential computing. What would your advice be on that?
Well, I think the first thing that I always say is you cannot AI your way out of it. Meaning, if your processes are broken, if you don't have the right data foundation, right, it's really hard to put AI on top of it and gain any productivity. The first notion is really think about where AI adds value, how you can rethink processes and leverage AI. Right? We do this a lot internally. With regards to sovereignty, it's actually a very interesting topic because it really depends a little bit on the business, right? But if you think about traditional businesses like manufacturing or chemical industry and things like that, we believe that the inference will actually happen very close to where the actuation happens. In simpler terms, if you use AI as part of manufacturing, you probably have some server class devices that sit on top of an assembly line, and then you run or you have your inferencing models running there, making some decisions, and they will kick off or other agents that might inform other things. I think that's a pattern Satya once called it, and I like the term, he called it ambient intelligence and ubiquitous compute, which basically means you will have compute everywhere, right? And then you will have the intelligence also everywhere, somewhere around. With regards to confidential compute or sovereignty, it's actually good because think about one of the biggest problems that we hear customers asking for is, hey, I want control over my data, right? Obviously, in the public cloud, we do a lot of things already. We comply to all the certification regulations of European Union, for example, or Asia or even US. There is a guarantee that the data is within that boundary. But I think given the latest developments, we also see customers being not just worried about that the data stays within that boundary. It's also have the data stay in their tenant, right? And to the most extreme, stay within their tenant within their environment, right? On the cloud scale side, again, there is work we're doing with confidential compute, rolling it out, right? We're also implementing a lot of sovereign features to make sure that the data residency and sovereignty is guaranteed in those regions that you basically provision your cloud services and AI services into.
Right.
But then think about sovereignty down the road where you want to do like inferencing or RAG or whatever your use case is. On the edge, we are basically following the paradigm of what we do with Azure today. And this is basically bringing your on-prem, which in this case is a sovereign environment, into the Azure management plane through Azure Arc. Right? What that means is the advantage for the customer is the data and the compute execution, everything stays within their environment of choice, whether it's their own data center that they might still have around, right? Or it might even be a different cloud. But then they can leverage Azure as the management plane to manage their entire estate. Right. From an AI perspective, that also means that we will enable, or we have enabled already, that you can bring models down into those environments. You can basically execute them, meaning inferencing, you can serve them, right? You can leverage like cloud connectivity. For example, if you want to bring data back into a larger data lake, which is also within your boundaries, and then you can run other reasoning models on top of it that might be too big to run on the edge, because that's also one issue that people don't really consider. I think at a very high level, think about sovereignty and AI in a way of we enable that on several layers, especially on the infrastructure side. First part is the sovereign functionality that we have in our public cloud. And the other part is obviously extending private clouds, private sovereign clouds into the Azure cloud. And then we also have options like completely air-gapped clouds.
100%.
Does that make sense?
Yes, that does. My question to you would also be, as a developer in today's age, with AI becoming eminent in every single business processes, but also for coding, what would your advice be to some of the developers of today of how they should be focusing their skills and what should their focus be on for this new wave of applications that we will see that come with programming with AI?
The first thing I want to say, I don't think AI will entirely replace the developer, right? I know there's a fear, there's also difference in opinion, but we are leveraging AI heavily inside Microsoft. We do a lot of things with our code bases, right? We do a lot of things with our operations. But reality is we really see AI as a companion. That's why I think Copilot is actually great wording, because you will have a pilot and a pilot is still a developer. I think the way it's changing is that you will adapt way faster to programming languages, patterns. You will be way quicker in evaluating certain hypotheses that you have, right? You also will be way quicker in writing your code. But I believe that as a developer, you still need to basically be the pilot and observe what the Copilot is doing in terms of factoring the code. How is the code really factored into a way that it's maintainable? Because I think what a lot of people tend to forget is like, hey, it's great to build something, but it's harder to operate something. A decent architecture actually has to do with operations as well, because obviously from a code base, you want to have it structured in a way that you can update functionality components independently. As a developer, you need to make sure whatever code is being produced, that is actually like in an architecturally sound way, right? So that's part one. Then on the operations side, I think, because when we got rid of all of our testers, it was really like you build it, you ship it, you basically fix it, right? There was no testing in between anymore. And developers took full responsibility. This is where AI helps tremendously as well. Because especially in larger code bases, you don't own the entire code base, nor can you understand the entire code base. You basically work on a piece of it, right? But now if you need to figure out, hey, what is the relationship between my piece that I develop with the entire application or the entire solution? I think this is where AI really will help increase the productivity. Think about dependency graphs, right? Even if you build loosely coupled architectures, there's high chance that you get a ripple effect. One component is failing, and then it basically has a cascading effect. AI will detect that for you and will actually tell you how to fix a bug or how to prevent this. I think overall, it will make developers way more productive. They will come to shippable code way faster, but they will also be way better in operating and troubleshooting the code. But I think overall, like a sound software design engineer, because that's really, I think, the term, mind is still required.
Thank you for sharing that. I think just one thing to add here is with every transition that we're seeing here, we also see that it's becoming easier for non-developers to code. And oftentimes, I personally feel it's such a gamble to just have AI write everything for you, even though it opens up avenues for you to create something that you weren't able to before. That subject matter expert that we are used to having evaluate, it's such a gamble sometimes to work with AI. And I think that is maybe one risk that I see is in projects, like having everyone is at the moment unable to code with AI, but we still need, as you mentioned, developers are here to stay, need those subject matters expert to validate those
I think
things
you're spot on, right? Security is one of the biggest issues, right? Because if you I still believe you need to have a fundamental understanding of what you're building, right? And where you're hosting it. Also the operations part, as I mentioned, because yes, you can build it if you have, but literally if you spend zero thoughts about what are my attack surfaces and things like that, because a model will not give you that out of the box, right? So you need to prompt it. To basically add security, then we'll get security added. But I think the overall understanding is there. And I also believe it's a big difference if you just want to get your feet wet. And I have family members who are really writing very nice applications and stuff, and that's fine, right? But we build enterprise software, right? Our software needs to be really secure, reliable, traceable, all that. So the entire enterprise promise is really important to differentiate those two type of flows. And as I said, the security portion is still something that should be front and center, no matter for who.
no matter who's coding.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Boris,
You're
for
very
being
welcome.
here. And this was so valuable, and it really has been a pleasure speaking
Yeah,
with you.
thanks for having me.
Thank you.